I look at payroll as the heart of an organization. It is what keeps things interconnected. Without payroll and payroll professionals out there, I don't think the workplace would be a very fun place to be. Technology is changing so quickly, and if we do not keep up with technology, even in the payroll space where people think of us as more of a back office, you're going to find that you're not going to be able to service your employees the way that you need to.
Keeping businesses thriving, compliance and safe, forecasting strategy, it's all on our mind. It's time payroll took its place in the boardroom to shine.
Managing a global team is complex, but Deel makes it simpler with payroll, HR, IT, and compliance all in one place. That's why over 35,000 businesses trust Deel to hire, pay, and manage their teams worldwide. See how Deel works at deel.com/nickday. That's DEEL.com/NICKDAY. Deel, your forever people platform. Hello and welcome back to the Payroll Podcast. My name is Nick Day. I'm the CEO at JGA Recruitment Group. We are specialist global payroll recruiters. And today I'm joined by a familiar face to many of you in the payroll industry, someone that I've had the privilege of getting to know quite well at Payroll Congress. It's someone I've met actually a few times. He speaks very passionately on the subject of artificial intelligence, or AI. And of course, we are joined today by Michael Francis, MBA. Now, before I give you a bit more of an introduction for those that perhaps aren't as familiar as I am, just a little reminder to say, please do remember to subscribe or follow this show if it's your first time here. You can leave me a review. That is really helpful, not just because we like lots of stars, but because actually the more reviews we get, the more the Apple and YouTube and all the different algorithms will start to share the show with a wider audience. And we want to grow this show. We want to really build the profile of payroll worldwide. So also remember to share this with your colleagues and friends. Now, for those not familiar with Michael, let me just say he is a seasoned global payroll leader, very much a vocal advocate for the profession, certainly an advocate for AI, and particularly in how it can transform the profession, both from the inside and the outside as well. Let's change those external perceptions so we can really raise the profile. So we're going to be jumping into some of those tangible benefits today. So without further ado, if you are thinking about whether AI is a threat or is it an opportunity and how does it fit in, we're in great company. Welcome, Michael Francis, MBA, to the Payroll Podcast. How are you feeling, my friend?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Nick. It is such a privilege to join you on this call. I remember when we first met, it was about 3 years ago at
That's
Payroll
right.
Congress. I was walking by, you were doing your podcast thing and you said, hey, you started asking me questions and we sat down for about 10 minutes and we chatted about, the younger generation, get the younger generation involved in payroll. And so this is a wonderful opportunity to start talking about not only getting younger generations in, but now the advent of AI and all of what is coming our way. I mean, none of us know exactly what it's going to look like, but it doesn't mean that we shouldn't get educated and get focused on how we can be a part of how AI is going to be used in the payroll space.
Absolutely right. And you've been in this industry for a long time. So you've had to adapt to and evolve to many technologies,
Yes.
compliance changes, and industry involvements as well. So before we jump into that, then, what does the word payroll mean to you?
Man, payroll at its core is very transactional, but it's so much more than that. I had the privilege today of talking to an intern we have in HR, and we had her for a week. I wasn't there for the week and found out that all that my team did with her was have her move around boxes and do files. And so I saw I had to take the opportunity to really share with her everything that payroll does. And so for me, I look at payroll as the heart of an organization. It is what keeps things interconnected. And I feel very strongly that without payroll, without payroll and payroll professionals out there, I don't think the workplace would be a very fun place to be. You're not getting paid accurately. When you get your paycheck, you don't trust that it's going to be right. And so I think, for me, if I had to use a word, it would be essential. Payroll is essential.
It's the reason we go to work, right? We want to get paid, and it's the only department that touches every employee, every
Exactly.
single pay cycle. So,
Exactly.
we got to praise that. We've got to praise it.
Yes.
Now, I know something that I wanted to bring to today's episode was really I got to hear some of your fantastic talk a couple of years ago at Congress. We were talking about the beginnings of AI. It was just starting to be
Mhm.
adopted. You talked about it again this year. And of course, it's moved on a lot in the last 12 months.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
tell me a little bit about your experience with AI and how it's currently being used in your payroll operations. And then I guess how others could use it as well, potentially.
Yeah. So for me, right now, AI is the hot topic. Companies are making decisions whether or not they're going to invest in really dealing with AI. There are a lot of companies, mine being one of them, that's very conservative, concerned about hallucinations and AI making stuff up. So at the end of the day, it's kind of a uphill battle. But I no plug here, but I currently use Workday in my workspace, and Workday does have a Workday assistant that is actually fairly robust in terms of helping with employee experience. So we lean into that quite a bit. Um, Part of what I know I needed to do to advance this conversation, and I'm kind of giving you, I think, a little bit of an exclusive of what I'm thinking about doing at Congress next year, if it's accepted. It's really building a framework of how to get AI, how to start getting AI implemented in payroll. And really what it starts with is really looking at your processes and understanding the things that are repetitive and things that you could probably that AI could probably use to enhance your work. However, it is very important that you, as a payroll professional, payroll leader, get connected with your IT folks. Usually at your company, your IT department will have someone that's focused on AI and using AI within the organization holistically. And then obviously you're going to have your security person. If you have those conversations, first you have to figure out what it is that you want to talk to them about and how you want to implement AI. However, the next thing you need to do is meet with them and start having these conversations. I know when I did that, in fact, it was about 3 or 4 months ago. It was so well received because usually what happens with those individuals is that they get uh, like payroll, they get, hey, by the way, this department is thinking about putting an AI in. They're this far along already. They're not at the beginning where they can start putting in, the guardrails around what it is that you're doing. So those conversations are well appreciated. I can tell you that most security and AI IT professionals would appreciate that conversation. And I can tell you that through that conversations, we understand how we could better utilize the Workday Assistant. However, what I come to find out is that they're actually doing a project for one of our departments to look at data and decipher data. And the gentleman that does the AI at our organization thinks that that solution could be used with payroll to help with comparisons between paychecks, which would be ideal. If you start looking at most of the questions that you get in payroll is like, hey, my paycheck changed regardless of how much the net pay is. Right.
I'm going to interject slightly because this is great. And the number one is I love the fact you're emphasizing and promoting really cross collaboration with departments. Right? I know you're a passionate advocate for getting payroll to have a seat at the table, the chief payroll officer. We had a little bit of a debate about this in editorial meetings, and we can share those views a little bit later on. But we're coming from the same place. We want to raise the profile of payroll right now. I think that starts with cross collaboration, not just with IT, but with HR, with finance, and beyond.
Yes.
Right? So I love that. And how we go about doing that is great. But I want to just rewind a little bit because we've talked already a little bit about the how and the frameworks. I don't think we've necessarily talked about the why. For the
Oh,
people that go, hey, I can have those conversations. Well, I don't know why I need AI. Like, what are the benefits it's going to bring? So, what are the
mhm.
benefits you've experienced, Michael, so far?
Well, the benefits I've experienced is really about being able to get the transactional work out of my way. Payroll is transactional, and actually, to be a very good payroll person, you have to be very detail oriented and very focused on your transactions. However, if there's a way of enhancing the work that you do and getting those transactions out of the way, it frees up a payroll person such as myself to start using the valuable data that payroll collects. And how do you use that data? You can use that data to start helping companies to make better decisions, start telling stories around your payroll spend globally and how we can effectively help a company to enhance their bottom line. So it really now shifts payroll from this transactional department to a department that can be a strategic partner to the organization and start helping the organization make better strategic decisions.
Love that. It's the idea of moving it from cost center to value driver. You talked there
Yes.
about the bottom line. We've
Mhm.
talked a lot about on this show for those that are new. If you know, welcome number one, but also we need to start thinking about payroll as a profit center. I know we spend a lot of money out on wages, like we accept that, but actually those slight things you might spot in that data that you talked about, if you can have a little impact on our bottom line, every penny saved is an extra penny made.
It-
I think that's where payroll can have that great impact. So
it-
for you, it's freed up a lot of time for you. So alongside the data and analytical work you've now been able to do, what else has that freed up time been able given back to you? Where have you been focusing that additional time yourself?
Well, you've mentioned that I've been, in the industry for a long time. So it actually has freed up time for me to do um, payroll podcasts, white
Right.
papers, thought leadership, getting involved. So that's on the personal side because I really like to make sure I can share with the industry. But really, what it has also helped me to do is to be more engaged in meetings when I go into meetings. When we start talking to the mergers and acquisitions department, if my focus is just on, okay, we're going into this market, how can we set up payroll and not really listening to the strategic, what the company is thinking about strategically, then then it's a disservice to me as a leader in trying to get into the strategic space. So it has really allowed me to be more engaged in these meetings and not as myopic as just focus
Sure.
on what does this deal mean for payroll. I can look at what does this deal mean for the company and how can I, leading a payroll organization, help to enhance this transaction, right? So it gives me a different it's a different perspective when you look at it, because if you're just focused on the payroll piece of it, you may just miss some of the things that you could be doing to set up that payroll in a way that will make sure that organization is compliant in that market.
Listen, I know I've witnessed it firsthand. You've been able to bang the drum more for raising the profile of payroll externally, but internally, then it sounds like you've had the opportunity to really help other departments understand the complexity behind payroll. If you're going through an M&A, look, this is why we need to consider it. Don't give it to us too late. We can help you with the process, which
Exactly.
I think leads me to an interesting point. A lot of payroll professionals, and certainly a lot of stakeholders that may be responsible for giving budget to payroll professionals like yourself, will say, hey, look, we've got a legacy system here. It's working. We're paying our employees accurately and on time and compliantly. Why do we need to invest? What's the added benefit? Payroll's about paying people. We're doing that. Now, I have my own views, but I'm going to throw it to you. What would you say? How do we get that extra
Um,
dollar?
I- you know, what I've always known when it comes to payroll is that exactly what you just said. Hey, if it's not broke, why fix it? But the thing about it is technology is changing so quickly, and if we do not keep up with technology, even in the payroll space, where people most think of us as more of a back office, organization, um, you're going to find that you're not going to be able to service your employees, the way that you need to. And truth be told, when you're in a company like myself, where mergers and acquisitions is part of your growth strategy, scalability means so much. And so, if you are operating with a system that you can't scale in such a way, and again, no system is where you can just snap your fingers and it happens, right? But if you're in a system where where you can scale, as you're growing, you can make shifts. Let's take for instance, and I'm going to use a very um current thing that's going on with the one big beautiful bill act that President Trump signed into law. There's something around no taxes on overtime. and that we're going to have to report overtime to we're going to have to report overtime on the W-2. The way that Workday is set up currently, that's going to be just a mapping exercise in Workday. If you think about other systems that don't work the same way like Workday, you would have to figure out how to program the system to pull only that premium piece of the overtime if you just paid it at 1.5. And so for me, if you start thinking about just the little things like that, where I would have to spend so much money on IT costs and so on just to program something, where for me, it's simply, as a payroll person that understands Workday, I just have to go map it on the W-2. It is, it, and for you and I, that's an easy sell, but how do you sell that to an organization? And that's where the difficult pieces come in. And so it's really about letting people understand the trends that are going on in payroll, understand that if we have the ability and the money to make this change, here's what it will net you. You have to be able to show the ROI on what is that you're doing. And so now that's the challenge for payroll individuals today when you start talking about AI. What is the return on investment? And if it's just a matter of just helping payroll with transactions, that's not going to be a good return on investment. Helping payroll with transactions that you now can start using that data to help you with the bottom line. Now that's something that you can sell and get people to invest in.
I agree. And I'm just going to reflect on a couple of points you made there, because I think they're really important for those that are trying to create a business case. I think the first thing you said is, we need to evolve to give a service that our employees want, or something along those lines. I think it's the old, if it's not broke, why do we need to fix it argument is, well, you just don't see that it's broken. So
Right.
employee experience has come into the payroll space now. We didn't really talk about it a few years ago, but now it's everywhere. And if you don't create a solution through your payroll that really appeals to employees, you may not notice them. You might think you're paying them on time, but you won't notice them leaving your organization to go to a competitor that's giving the things that they're after, right? Maybe that's like a pay on demand, or whether it's something else. Maybe it's tokenized payroll. Whatever it is, if there's another service provider giving them that thing, you may start losing competition. So you might be paying them accurate on time, but you won't be noticing some of the attrition rates, of course, unless you're looking at the data.
Exactly right. And if you don't have a system that can help you to tell those stories, how are you going to tell those stories? At the end of the day, right? The buzzword with everyone, not only in the payroll space, is continuous improvement, continuous improvement. How am I going to continuously improve if I have bad technology? So if you're a company that's about innovation, about cutting edge, and about all of that, it really can't only be for the profit centers. It really needs to also be into your support centers, right? You have to make that investment, understanding that yes, it's not going to impact your bottom line directly, but if you're efficient and you're retaining your employees, employee experience good, employees stay, and you're retaining your point, it's less dollars that you're spending on when people leave and you have to retrain, right? So at the end of the day, it really shows up. And again, I think when you start partnering, when you start talking about partnering, you really need to, as a payroll person, help when you start making a business case around, retention, partner with your talent acquisition folks that can put real numbers and real metrics around what it's costing the company with turnover, and then you as a payroll person can then start talking about how can what we do support making sure that we don't have that much turnover. I think that's a
Absolutely right.
good
And
scope to tell.
it's your chance to really show the impact of an effective process. And when your attrition starts to improve and you're able to attract better talent and you can retain that talent, all those things. But the second thing you mentioned in the original response was also around risk and compliance and governance. And we all know that the one thing that scares a board more than anything else is risk, compliance, and governance. So I think that's a really strong argument for AI to make sure that we are looking after the very, very complex legislation we've got to adhere and manage.
Exactly.
Because if we get that wrong, it breaks brand trust. Payroll, I think, are the key holders to trust. If we don't pay employees right, they're not going to trust us. But equally, if we pay them wrong at scale, that's headline news. right? That's headline making, and people aren't going to want to join your firm, right? So I think there's enough reasons here. We can start banging that drum.
Right.
What's been your experience on the risk side? I know you've worked with stakeholders.
Hey,
What are the
here's the thing. And where I think a lot of payroll people fail is we've gathered all the data, we've calculated gross to net accurately. Everybody got paid on time, and phew, we're done. No, no, no. The real work starts. And when I say the work that can impact your bottom line really, really starts on the compliance after everything is done, is getting all of those payments to the right jurisdictions, all of those tax filings done, because if you don't do those things, there's a cost involved. Now we talk about, when individuals don't get paid, right? If you're not doing it at scale and you make a mistake, you take a hit on your reputation. If I do not pay the IRS here in the US on time, it's immediately a 2% of that liability as a penalty, which means there is an actual dollar amount that you can
attached to your work? Yeah.
attach to the risk part of your work. So I think, the if you think about, if you use an analogy with payroll, when you start going to a concert, the front of house people that, the ones that are doing the marketing and selling, and they're on stage moving stuff around, and those are the people that, oh, they're doing such a great job. But if you don't have that back of house piece of it tied up and buttoned up, they can't do their jobs in an effective way. So that's how I look at the compliance piece. Compliance piece is on it's the not so and then I'm going to use one of the Vita's thing, but in the other direction, it's the not so sexy part of payroll, where you're just dealing with jurisdictions. And funny enough, when it comes to jurisdictions, and I started out my payroll where I think I got what I'd call my payroll MBA when I was with Johnson & Johnson. I was in the payroll tax manager there. And I can tell you, it was one of the most thankless things that you're doing, because you can do everything perfectly. And if for some reason that return doesn't get to the jurisdiction, you can be dealing with that one return for years to come. And it's thankless. But you know what? It's required work. And so the compliance and risk piece of payroll, this is where you actually keep the company from getting into trouble with jurisdictions. And truth be told, if just like if we don't pay people at scale, if we start getting these huge penalty and interest things, or we have audits with the labor board, and we have issues with how we're paying people and so on, that's where the real headlines can start, like saying,
I agree.
SBAs, they're not paying their people on time, or they're part of a class action suit and all that stuff. So, for me, I think the compliance piece, while it's not the sexiest part of it, it's a piece of it that keeps me up at night, just to make sure that we're doing it right. Not only in the US, but globally.
Beyond.
In
I'm sure you're not alone with those sleepless nights. I'll tell you what, you use the example of a concert and people running around. It made me think about something, and bear with me. Hopefully this translates, but you put this image in my mind, Michael, which was at the very least we expect as payroll people to be paid on time. That's kind of the very least we expect. If I go and see a concert and I want to see my favorite singer perform on stage, the very least I expect is for the person to sing. But it's not enough. If you're going to a concert, you need bells, you need whistles, you need a show, right? You need to better go to the hot dog stand and get a snack. You need a drink. You need to have fireworks. Like these are the
Exactly.
things that the bells and whistles that add up to make an experience. And at
Yes.
the very least, we need the singer to sing. At the very least, we need to pay people on time.
Right.
But payroll is so much more than that now.
It's so much
Now it
more.
is about the experience. It is about the compliance. It is about trust. Attention payroll leaders. If you're listening to this, you already know that payroll has never been more complex. Compliance risks are rising, skilled talent is scarce, and getting it wrong can cost your business way more than just money. It can cost you trust, retention, and of course, brand reputation. I'm Nick Day, host of this show and also CEO of JGA Recruitment Group, specialist global payroll recruiters. Here at JGA, we're so passionate about payroll, we've even turned it into music. Don't believe us? Head to your favorite audio platform and search for Payroll Powers the World, and you can quite literally join us in song about how we believe payroll deserves its moment in the boardroom to shine. At JGA, we'd like to think our passion shines through to our recruitment results as well. With a 97% retention rate and an average 19-day job brief to hire success rate, we work fast, we work strategically, and we work with purpose to connect you to the hidden payroll talent that job ads and direct search methods will simply never reach. So if you're hiring or indeed planning to hire, why not partner with the experts that are shaping the future of payroll? Partner with jgarecruitment.com today, or better yet, drop me a message directly, and together we can make sure your next payroll hire is your best one yet.
Yeah. And it's so much more. And again, it's really a lot of information, right? I think one of the things that we're trying to do at SBA is really start getting in front of our customers and just sharing with them little things. For national payroll, we're planning to like hand out candy bars, but have within the candy bar like a little tidbit about payroll, like a fortune cookie, right? So it'll be in there. And so,
Nice.
did you know, one of the things you should be doing is checking making sure that your information is up to date, that we can get your tax documents on time. People don't think about stuff like this. They'll move and they'll not update their information in the system. When it comes tax time, they're calling me, and why didn't I get my W-2? Well, you moved and you didn't change your address, or it went to your old address, and so just little things to help them to understand that they're part of the fabric of what we do, right? At the end of the day, payroll folks depend. I'm a big advocate. I don't have the specific numbers to support this, but I will say that my strong belief is that 90% of the information that we process in payroll, we don't own. We don't own it at all. We have to get it from someone else. And so the quality of the data that you get in is so much more. And part of that is when you start talking about a work day where it's employee self-service, is really teaching employees that, hey, when you do this, this is the impact that it may have. And so it really starts, internally marketing yourself as not only the person that pays you, but the person that's going to make sure that you're informed on how you can make sure you get paid accurately. And so, you start talking about those partnerships and so on, it really starts resonating with your internal customers.
Well, it leads me to an interesting question. You used the word marketing there. I want to think about that for a moment because I know only because we've spoken about this at Congress that this is an opportunity for you to leave your legacy on payroll with all the work that you've done to really get people to embrace AI, to evolve the function, to
Yeah.
get it seen at C-suite level. And I think AI also has the opportunity to make it more innovative and exciting for
Yes.
the younger generation. It needs to come into the market. I know this is something you're passionate about. So how can we get the Gen Z, millennials, the alphas to start making the profession more enticing? How can we use AI to appeal to more people to come into what is a wonderful global profession?
So here's what I believe. The next generation wants more than just a job, right? I think they're looking, my understanding, and again, I I'm one of these, I'm a baby boomer, I don't want to age myself, but I was the last year of baby boomers, right? And so us baby boomers, we have in our head, what the millennials, Gen Z, and the Gen X's are all about. But one of the things I admire most about them is that they're not just getting a job to get a paycheck. They want a job with purpose, right? They want to understand that they're part of something bigger, right? So how do you do that with AI? With AI innovation, one of the misconceptions of payroll is really just about, it's about, spreadsheets and numbers and transactions. And so, when you start, if you market that to, these younger generations, they'll be like, no, I don't want to do that. That has no purpose. It's not part of a bigger operation. But when you start integrating AI to let them know that, hey, you're going to be making decisions, or at least contributing to the company's strategic initiatives by utilizing AI to help with looking at data and parsing out that data in a way that will help the company. I think that's when you start attracting these individuals, when they know that payroll. When I started talking about payroll, not only on the AI pieces of it, but all of the opportunities that I've had, where I've gotten to travel the country, travel the world, just based on payroll. How do you do that? Because I was a consultant, I was able to go and help others to do what it is that I know how to do. And so, so these are opportunities that are available to you. So, just to answer your question, by integrating AI into payroll, we're showing young professionals that this is a field that's evolving, right? A field that matters and where they can lead change. And I think if you start talking like that and you're able to deliver once you hire them on that, the sky's the limit. These kids will
I
come
agree.
flocking to payroll. And the thing about it is a payroll professional such as myself, I've started really understanding the real value that we bring to the organization, and I think it's worthwhile screaming it from the mountaintop that we're dope. We're dope. We are
Love that.
we are the heartbeat of an organization.
You know what, though? I mean, you mentioned the word a couple of times, which is the word storytelling. We've got to tell stories. And I think, it's people like yourself, Michael, and many of the fantastic guests I've had on this show over the years. You've laid the foundation for those stories to grow. And I think we're in a wonderful position now where we don't want to be selling jobs. I work in recruitment saying, hey, I need you to process payroll for 600 people. It's
Right.
dull, right? We need to
Yeah,
tell a
it's dope.
story about the
Now we
profession.
tell a story.
This is an opportunity to join an organization and really hold the key that unlocks trust for employees, trust for C-suite. You get an opportunity to immerse yourself in the latest tech and innovations in AI. You can make a difference by analyzing trends that spot huge improvements in ROI in relation to where you could save money, where you can identify trends to improve absence, whatever it might be. I just think there's so much opportunity now to
Yeah.
create wonderful
Yes.
stories that people like yourself have laid the foundation for us to create. I think is a wonderful thing, but we need to make sure now we've got the people out there telling them, let's bring them in, tell the stories, let's bring them in.
And Nick, how you just explained it, I'll take that job anytime. I
I
would
think you're doing it, Michael, by
I
the way,
would
whether you
jump
know it
at
or
that
not. I think you've got that
opportunity.
job. I think you've got that
I
job.
will jump at that opportunity anytime. And that's the thing. One of the things that and we talk about the younger generation, and we talk about people such as myself that are just like um, you know, in the headspace that we can innovate and we can be a seat at the table, regardless of if it's a C-suite position or just, being a trusted advisor. But then there's that group of individuals that have been working in payroll for so many years that have just been transaction, transaction, transaction. It's difficult for them to see,
It is difficult.
for them
I
to
get it.
see this picture that we're painting. So it's really not only just the young
No,
kids.
I
It's
agree.
really saying, hey, you are valuable. You bring more than just a paycheck every other week or every week, whatever. You're much more than that. And I think that's one of the great things that yeah, the payroll podcast, payroll org. I think that's for me. If there's anything that I can say that they're doing in that space is really letting payroll people getting people to understand there's so much more. And it's so exciting when you go to Congress to see people that come in and they're leaving excited about what they can go back and do within their organization in the space that they hold. And so for me, that's very exciting.
Love that. And Bayo, as you say, do some absolutely great work. Something I like to say to people if I'm coaching or with my own family, if you have sometimes we have a narrow view of the world. The IC is what we want it to see and what we used to, and that's fine. But I always say, is there an opportunity for you to raise yourself up a little bit? If you're looking at things at ground zero, can you go to ground one and look at it differently? Because the higher
Yeah.
up you go, the view changes. We can
Yeah.
change that view, the way we think about that view changes. And we just need to get people looking at it from a slightly higher, broader view. We can get them to do that. I think they'll start to get excited, like I know you are, and like I know many others
Oh,
have as
yeah,
well.
and and as you start getting that higher view, you really start being able to have those conversations in those
Yeah,
rooms with the C-suite individuals, be you're part of the C-suite or not, right? You're able to start speaking their language, right? And when you start speaking their language, that's when the real investment in what it is that you're trying to
absolutely.
choose happens.
what's the saying? If you, we mentioned this in the editorial, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change, and
Yeah.
that's right and ready for payroll. Well, look, I know we could talk about AI for an awful long time, so we're going to open the vault in just a moment.
Right.
Before we do that, what's the thing then? That's the last question for this section is. What is it that really excites you about the future? Let's fast forward. Let's go to 2030, 5 years in from now. Well, not gonna put it on you, but I'm assuming you'll be excited. But let me know, are you excited by the future in 2030, and what does that future look like to you?
Well, I'm excited for the future in 2030 because hopefully by then
You'll be retired, yeah.
not retired. But
But for
no,
payroll
so
specifically,
so let me
yeah.
go back to payroll specifically. I'm very excited about it. If we're able to achieve what it is that we're trying to do to get younger people involved, really integrating AI into the payroll space. And again, I think when you look at and hear others talk, not only about in the payroll space, but what AI is doing, how smart it's getting, it's going to replace people, it's going to replace people, it's going to replace people. My thought process here is that AI is not going to replace people, but the people that don't embrace and understand and figure out AI, they're going to get replaced by the people that do. Right. So,
I
so
agree.
by no stretch
Love
of the
that, by the way.
imagination am I saying here, and if people heard me at Congress for the last 2 years and absolutely think that the way I've framed it is that no one is going to lose their job, I I'd be an idiot to think that that's going to be the case, right? But I can tell you that um, by you individuals listening to this podcast, taking the bull by the horns and really learning what AI can do and what the capabilities are, and being part of the conversation of how AI is going to get implemented within your organization, within what you do within the organization, that's going to help you to maintain your role. What you don't want to have happen is companies start investing in AI and others that don't know the detail of what it is that you do, telling them, oh, by the way, payroll is transactional. You can get rid of your payroll department by using AI. If you're not in those conversations saying, well, yeah, you may be
You're
able
in
to get
trouble.
rid of some of the transactions, but here's where AI cannot do some of the things that you can do, and why it is in your best interest to at least have people involved in the process,
Yeah.
right? And I think that's where I'm scared, what I'm afraid of. So, in 2030, if myself, you, others in the industry that are advocating for advancement and elevating the role and all that are successful in what we're doing, I'm really excited to see what can happen with in the payroll space. But if we have individuals that are complacent, that are they sit back and they think that the solution is going to somehow somebody else outside of their realms
Yeah.
or make a decision that's in their best interest, then I'm afraid that we may be in a situation where you have all this attrition, getting rid of people in the payroll space. But I'll tell you this, shortly after you do that, you're going to have to start rehiring them because AI is not going to be able to deliver what it is that you're trying to deliver and keep that trust that you have in companies. So we know hopefully by 2030 we don't have that situation where you have this mass terminations and then this mass rehiring another year and a half later to try to get things back in order, because then you have that work of getting things back in order. So that's going to be
Sure.
really that would really be work that's just rework of
Well,
things that weren't
let's hope if HR people or finance folk or C-suites are listening to this, they take note of that, right? So you heard it here first from Michael Francis. Let's not replace our payroll teams with AI. Let's use it
no.
to augment what we do, not
Yes,
replace. Absolutely right.
exactly right, exactly right.
Let's open the payroll vault then for you, Michael. 3 short, sharp questions. The first one is this: what's the best piece of career advice you've ever received that still shapes how you lead today?
um for me, the payroll, the advice I got wasn't really payroll specific, but what the person actually said to me is that if every time you collect a paycheck, make sure that you're earning it, right?
Oh, nice. I
And what
like
does
that.
that mean? Well, for me, what that meant, and I'm not sure if this is exactly what the person meant, but what it meant for me is that whenever you are in a position, if you're in a role, regardless of if you love the role or not, as long as you're collecting that paycheck, you give your very best, right? And I think that has always helped me to advance my career. I'm an intellectually curious person. And if you're in a position where you don't think you're getting paid enough, or you're not valued, you may start trying to say, all right, I'm just going to do just enough work to earn this paycheck. For me, it was a non-starter. I was always going to be intellectually curious, and I was always going to learn more, and I was always going to keep moving forward. And whether or not, the company that I'm with is on board with me and advancing me, if they're not, then I'll do like the younger generation does. Hey, you don't value me, I'm going to go find it somewhere else, right? And
Yeah.
so
I
and
love
so
that.
for
Listen,
me,
I've not heard it before, but I
yeah,
like it. It resonates. It's good.
yeah.
It's powerful. If you weren't working in payroll, what would you be doing?
I would actually. So I initially wanted to be a pilot. That didn't work
Nice.
out. I had migrated from to this country from Jamaica in 1980. I went to the 10th grade, and so by the time I was leaving high school, I wasn't here long enough to be a citizen, and I wanted to go to the Air Force Academy. So that didn't happen. I studied marketing in college, and I really wanted to be a marketer. I really wanted to do it. So if I wasn't in payroll, I'd probably be out there trying to make commercials, and hopefully not the corny ones that you see on some of the Super Bowl commercials.
But still telling stories, good ones and captivating and inspiring ones, just in a slightly different field. I love that.
Yes.
Last question, you might know about this one, a little bit of fun, but if Peril was a book, a song, or a movie, what would it be and why?
A book, a song, or a movie? Um, wow, that's a good one. Um, wow. Mm, I'm trying to think of a song because I really love music. Um, there's a Bob Marley song that just popped in my head. It's called "Is It Love? Is It Love? Is It Love That I'm Feeling?"
Yeah.
And so for me, it's been a love story for me and payroll. Some days it's been good, some days it's been bad, but for me, um, always lead in the payroll space. And love is really a strong word, right? And I think sometimes we overuse it. But for me, I care deeply about what it is that I do, and the people that I do it for, right? And so for me, um, is it love that I'm feeling? Yeah, it is. And
Yeah.
that's what
I
payroll is.
love that. You know what? Honestly, I think it's gonna leave all our listeners, and it has with me, with a song in their heads as they leave this show. Is it love? Is it? I know it, man. I get it. And I think you've demonstrated that in space today. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the payroll podcast. As you know, I've tried to get onto this show for a little while now, so I'm really excited to have you here. I do hope for anyone that's going to Payo next year, if you're on stage again, do go and see one of Michael's talks. It's full of warmth, it's full of familiarity, it's full of story, it's full of heart, full of love, and I think you'll enjoy yourselves and really come away enthused about the future of payroll, which I think we need to be. So, delighted to have you on the show today. If you
Nate,
have any questions around AI, post them over to Michael. I will put his LinkedIn profile in the show notes as
thank
well.
you.
But it's been my
Thank you.
pleasure, Michael Francis. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Nick. Thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
No, pleasure's been all mine. And I'll see you at Congress next year, if
Right.
not before.
Definitely. All right. Take care.
Global teams are more connected today than ever, but managing payroll, HR, and IT can still feel fragmented. But Deel simplifies global work with one platform that keeps everything running smoothly. No compliance guesswork, no third party payroll, just seamless operations backed by 24/7 expert support. That's why over 35,000 companies trust Deel to handle their global workforce. Visit deal.com/nickday to see how Deel can help. That's DEEL.com/NICKDAY. Deel, your forever people platform.